Well, if it wasn't real before, it's real now. Welcome to episode 3 of the John DuLong Show. There goes my phone. I'm John DuLong. Just in case you think that I'm getting too polished. As if you'd ever believe that. Okay. Well, as I'm recording this, Louis C.K.'s apology just came out a few hours ago. Of course, I'm sure you've heard the long-standing rumors about Louis C.K.'s sort of gross treatment of women that he held a position of power over came to light, and he was sort of the latest major celebrity to have this stuff come out into the public sphere. I'm not going to spend a whole episode talking about this. If you want my opinions, you can pretty much take what I said about Kevin Spacey last week and just take away everything about sort of the queer aspect of it. What I will say is this sucks a lot because I was a real big fan of Louis C.K. But it's kind of like Chris Benoit, who's a professional wrestler who he killed his wife and young son and then himself. It tainted my being able to enjoy his art, and I don't think I'm going to be able to listen to Louis C.K. stand up ever again. His apology was, okay. It wasn't perfect, wasn't excellent, but it was better than Spacey's. Low bar, but it was better than Spacey's. I don't know, what I can say is, I'm glad that these sorts of things, as terrible as they are coming out, because I think that this is hopefully a sea change. Hopefully we'll start to see less and less of this as these awful stories come to light, and it's sunlight being the best disinfectant, and you know what, anyone who's abused their power like this, like these people like Weinstein and Spacey and now Louis C.K., they just got to be scared shitless, and that's good. Don't hate seeing abusive men scared shitless. Anyhow, let's change the mood a bit, have a little bit of fun, and I know just how. See? Yeah, nice, isn't it? Maybe I'm too excited about the musical sting. It wasn't even my idea. It was Devi's. She told me that I should put some transitional music in to the show so that you know that I'm changing topics in case you're not listening to me. And she's usually right about things. So I'm going to listen to her. It's the same guy who does the theme music for the show. It's not like I commissioned it or anything. It's just free for use stuff that I found on the internet. I'll post a link up to his stuff. It's Komiku, I think is how you pronounce it. It's Komiku, Komiku, something along those lines. I don't know. Anyhow, I'll post a link to his stuff in the show notes so you can check it out if you want. I really like his stuff, though. I'm going to try and incorporate a bit more of it as I can. Just going to say really quickly, nothing in the letter bag here today, so if you're looking forward to that, it's not going to come in today. However, I'm going to address some comments that I've heard in person. Couple of people who are not on board with the anti-fig stance. Here's the story. You are now listening to the internet's premier anti-fig podcast. That's what we're about here at the John DuLong Show. If you're not on board, I'm sorry. This is just not a thing that we're going to ever agree on. Figs are not worthwhile. They're not good fruit, and the only way that they're any good is in Newtons, and they don't even call them fig Newtons anymore because they're terrible. We went over that last week. So once again, you're listening to the internet's favorite anti-fig podcast. We're number 1 on the anti-fig charts. We might be the only one on the anti-fig charts. But you know what? You just get on board. Get on board with the good side of this whole thing. You can be part of a movement, and that's always exciting. Alright, today I'm going to start a new series of indeterminate length. It's called The Rules. Recently I just passed my 5-year anniversary at my current job. That's 5 years working at a call center. worked as an agent, as a supervisor, and I'm not going to pretend to be an expert, but I'll definitely say I'm a professional. So as a professional in the field, I'm happy to debut my new recurring segment, The Rules. This is going to be the first entrance in the series, and it's The Rules for Calling Customer Service, Volume 1. Rule number 1. You called me, motherfucker. Now, obviously, this doesn't apply to telemarketers. More on those later. But when I'm speaking to you, generally speaking, it means that you've got a problem, you need help solving said problem, and you've called me to have said problem solved. Great. Good work. Solid plan. Can I have your order number? No? You don't have that. How about a phone number associated with your account? You don't have that either. You don't say. You see, this is how this game works, kids. It's a transaction. You want something done. I want information to have that happen for you. You're like people who stand in the line at the grocery store and wait until the cashiers ring everything through to get your money ready. You shouldn't be surprised when I answered the phone. And you definitely shouldn't be surprised that I'm going to ask you for information, especially if you're like a long-standing customer. Don't call in and have no idea. Like have something. I'm not expecting you to have a good sense of exactly what you need, but God, have something. Rule number 2. Assume that I know what I'm doing. This is otherwise known as I work here, you don't. The number of times that I've heard a customer ask, how long have you been working here? If I had a nickel for every time that was asked, well, I've worked there for 5 years, so I'd have a lot of nickels. Here's the rub. Even if this is my first week, I've dealt with more issues than you've ever placed orders. I've dealt with more issues than you've ever had. So I no longer work full-time, but I did for 4 years. So here's some quick math for you, and I'm even going to make the numbers a little bit more favorable to the customer. Okay, let's assume an average week of 30 hours of work. This is a low ball, but I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt here. I'm going to knock off 10 hours a week for idle time and for breaks and lunches and all that sort of stuff. 50 weeks out of the year, again, let's assume I can afford to take vacations. So let's multiply this by 5 for the number of years I've been doing it, and then we'll divide that by 5, which is the average time that it takes me to get through a call. So I guess I didn't really need to do all that multiplication and division. The point is 1,500 accounts, okay, that I've had my hands on based on this very rough math, which is probably lowballing, like I said. The point is, I know my shit. Until you have a reason to believe otherwise, assume that the person that you call does too. Rule number 3, don't assume that I'm Comcast, otherwise known as don't assume that you're going to have a bad experience because you have to call customer service. Okay, I get it. Out there are the Comcasts of the world. Comcast is like sort of known to be the worst customer service experience for American consumers, but you know that's sort of where we have the data. Is they're voted the worst consistently, and nobody likes to call Comcast, and they feel like they get shitty service every single time. Totally get it. You have to call into Comcast if you get cable from them, and you have a bad experience speaking to them, and you have to grit your teeth and claw for every little thing that you feel that you're owed. And don't get me wrong, I understand there are bad customer service experiences out there, but don't assume that you have one bad customer service experience with one company, it's going to be the same with another. You know, like the number of times that I've had people coming at me with things that I was just going to do for them anyhow and yelling at me, saying you're going to do this and you're going to do that when I was going to do this and that. It boggles my mind. When you call, this is sort of a sub-rule within the rule. When you call into customer service, have a sense of what you want, okay? Have a sense of what you would find acceptable to solve your problem. If that's a credit on your account, then boom, have a dollar figure sort of in mind. Be flexible with it, but understand that that's sort of what you're looking for. If you're looking for a redelivery of a broken item or broken parts or missing parts to an order, have that in mind. Figure out what your time frame is. Know what you want out of this interaction and be flexible with it, okay? Be a reasonable human being, but have an idea and then be willing to hear out what the company actually offers you. Sometimes it's actually going to end up being more than you expect. And if you just give the person on the other end of the phone, the benefit of the doubt for 30 seconds, you might just find that you end up happier at the end of the day. Rule number 4, I didn't cause your problem. Now, I know that you're sitting here listening to this podcast right now, and you're thinking, of course, the person on the other end of the line didn't cause my problem. I mean, unless the rare occasion where it is a mess up by a customer service agent causing a major problem. It happens sometimes. But, in terms of a missing component or a damaged item or something not arriving or an incorrect charge on your bill, it really doesn't behoove the person who's picking up the phone to have been the person to cause this issue. Because your angry ass ends up calling in and interrupting my game of Sudoku. Here's another little sub-rule within this rule, okay? If you keep on saying to a customer service rep, this issue keeps on coming up, keeps on happening, keeps on occurring, and it's completely unacceptable. Okay, here's the thing with that. If it keeps on happening, let's examine who is in that little transaction there. There's the company, yes, that is making some sort of mistake. Then there's also the user who keeps on experiencing that mistake. Maybe, just maybe, you're a little bit at fault. Maybe, just maybe, you should look into ways that you can minimize the chances of something like this happening. Maybe, maybe the customer isn't always right, guys, okay? And rule number 5, this is the most important one. Don't be a dick. Good Lord. Listen, I understand. When you're calling into customer service, you're calling in with a problem. You're probably not happy about it. I totally get it. Take a few seconds to calm down before you call. Okay? It's going to make everybody's life a lot easier. Look back at the things that I've already said here, okay? You'll be more prepared for the call if you're not upset. You will assume that I know what I'm doing if you're not believing that I'm causing all of your issues. You won't assume the worst of me. You won't assume that I caused your problem. You'll assume that I'm a guy on the other end of the phone who's just doing a job. And frankly, I like doing a good job. I like to, at the end of a call, at the very least know that I've done everything to at least make you happy. And frankly, I don't want you calling in again unless it's absolutely necessary. This, my experience is entirely in inbound customer service with some bag outbound calls to already existing clients with information, okay? Outbound callers, God bless them. Because, if you're out there and you're a telemarketer or you're a survey taker or whatever it is that you do, you are the hero out there, man. I'm telling you that right now because that's a rough job and people are nothing but assholes to you. End of the day, we're just doing a job, okay? We are on the other end of the phone, and quite frankly, it just not being a dick is going to make everything go easier. It's going to make your life easier. It's going to make the call go faster. You're going to be happier. The customer service reps are going to be happier. And quite frankly, it's not a situation where the squeaky wheel gets the grease. It's a situation where honey attracts more flies than vinegar. And you know what? It's the other thing about the squeaky wheel getting the grease. It's also the first one to get replaced. So anyhow, those are the rules for calling customer service. Volume number 1. I'm sure there will be more. Hope you enjoyed this one. Now this. I feel like after all that anger, it's good to go with something a little bit chill to play us into the next segment here. Hey, this is exciting news. Penn Teller, the big guy in Penn Teller, Penn of Penn Teller, if you will, he put together a movie over the last couple of years. He crowdfunded the whole thing through Kickstarter or something like that. I don't think it was actually Kickstarter. It was something along those lines anyhow. And he was looking, basically what happened was he couldn't get any distribution for it. And I can kind of understand why. It's a really weird